For joining us for the third installment in our webinar series. Previously, we presented on renewables and battery storage, on arc flash, and today the topic of discussion will be electric vehicles. Now, as an agency, we're strong believers in the global shift towards electrification, which is a term you may have heard about from our work in the renewables sector. And this concept applies to many facets of our energy consumption. One of those being heating, which our agency founder, Eli Asoyev, will be presenting on in our fourth installment on Thursday. So be sure to check that out. But as I mentioned today, the focus is electric vehicles. There we go. All right, so agenda for today. I'm going to talk about our story at Catalyst. I'll go into some different types of electric vehicles and chargers. Then I'll talk about the drivers behind the technology, some progress that's been made with electric vehicles, the value streams associated with electric vehicles, specifically the charging technology, and then we'll finish off at that point. So our story, Catalyst is a sales agency. We've been in business for over 15 years. And we have a very strong belief in sustainability and electrification, as I mentioned. Those are our guiding principles, and part of the reason why we've gotten involved in both the solar market and now with electric vehicles as well. So what we do is we connect global manufacturers to the Atlantic Canadian market, and we are the best in the world at accomplishing that. All right, so electric vehicles. Some of you may be familiar with the different types of electric vehicles out there. I'll go over them quickly here though. So the first being the hybrid electric. This has a rechargeable battery pack, which is directly connected to an internal combustion engine. It receives all of its charging from that engine as well as some from braking. Next, you have your plug-in hybrid, which has a larger battery pack, gives you longer range, but it also has that gasoline engine when you need it. And then finally is the fully battery electric vehicle. Advances in battery technology have made these fully electric vehicles feasible. And this is the type of car that I'll be focusing on today. Then when it comes to your electric vehicle chargers, there's also three main types that we'll look at. So usually they're referred to in levels. You have level 1, 2, and 3. With level 3 also being referred to as the DC fast charging charger. So level 1, these chargers come standard with most electric vehicles these days. And this simply plugs into a standard 120 volt outlet. This is the cheapest form of charging. It's also the slowest. So you can get a full charge on an electric car in about 8 hours with this charging technology, which is really only feasible if you're charging overnight at home or perhaps at a place of work. The next charging technology that we'll look at is level 2. And this uses a 240 volt outlet and provides a full charge in about 3 hours. So most electric vehicle homeowners would be looking to have this installed at their house with the purchase of an electric car. And these have to be installed by a certified electrician. So for you distributors out there, this is a new value stream for your customers, the installation of these charging of these chargers. And then your final charging technology would be the DC fast charger. So this was popularized by Tesla and their supercharging network. These chargers use commercial grade services, and not only that, they're incredibly expensive. So they're not really feasible for most businesses or homeowners. These are really replacing the traditional gas station for electric cars. But one thing I want to make clear right off the bat is that when it comes to electric cars, we really need to rethink the way that we're refueling, because it's not going to be the same as what we had with internal combustion engines. Most travel done within the city can be topped up using level 2 chargers, whether they're located at places of work, at public charging locations, or even that's just at someone's home. If for typical travel around the city, there may never ever be a need to visit one of these DC fast charging stations. Now for longer trips, for cross-country voyages or for business travel, then these DC fast chargers do come in handy, as they offer the fastest charging time with about 30 minutes to a full charge. But I'm not a big believer in the everyday usage of this charging tech. So in Nova Scotia, you may have seen the supercharging stations that have been installed up at the Enfield or near the airport in Enfield. There's also plans for a network of level 3 chargers across the province, which will enable electric vehicle travel around the entire province itself. I want to, at this point, apologize to our Newfoundland viewers as well, because in the morning, I mentioned that there is a coast-to-coast fast charging network, which is technically true, as there is fast chargers from Halifax to Victoria, but Newfoundland's fast charging network is supposed to be completed towards the end of 2020, which would bring total Canadian coverage by the end of the year. So now we'll talk about the drivers. And the first one, this is for the early adopters, is the environmental incentives behind electric vehicles. So the federal government currently has lofty goals for greenhouse gas reduction. They're looking to reduce that to 30% below 2005 levels. And transportation accounts for 24% of all those GHG emissions, representing a large chunk of the pie and a great target for reducing. An EV owner in Nova Scotia today can actually reduce their transportation emissions by 50% through the use of an electric vehicle. Furthermore, the federal government has goals of 100% of all new vehicles to be electric by 2040. Now, you'll also have some naysayers who question how clean an electric car really is if it's powered by, let's say, coal for the Nova Scotia viewers out there. But when it comes to the vehicles themselves, they use electricity as their power source, but they're also more efficient in general. So an internal combustion engine vehicle converts about 17 to 21% of its fuel energy to power for the car, with the rest of those losses being through various means, by heat, by inefficiencies in the design. Meanwhile, you have 59 to 62% of the fuel energy converted to power for an electric car, which is where you really get those emission reductions in transportation. So the second driver behind the uptake of electric vehicles is the shift towards electrification, as I mentioned earlier. So overall, there's a large shift in the world towards electrical power sources for previously hydrocarbon powered technology, such as transportation, as we're discussing now, space heating, water heating, and then your battery storage is also going to allow for that shift to electrification to take place. There's an increasing appetite for electricity worldwide, and this is holding true in the transportation sector as well. So one of the final hurdles to EV adoption, and this is what is really going to allow for widespread adoption of the technology, is that financial piece. So currently, EVs are more expensive on average than a combustion car. But as Kevin Boutelier wrote in a report last year, there's an inflection point predicted in late 2020 where the cost of an electric vehicle is going to become comparable to an internal combustion engine. Furthermore, there are federal rebates available for electric cars. You can get up to a $5,000 rebate for what they call a zero emission vehicle. And that's applied to cars under $45,000. And beyond that, there's fuel savings and maintenance savings associated with owning an electric car. For businesses, there are also rebates available for EV charging infrastructure. So I'll touch more on it later on, but the program is known as the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program, or ZVIP for short, and it covers 50% of the project costs on an EV charging installation. So in terms of progress so far, as I mentioned, there's a goal for the federal government to have 10% of light-duty vehicles to be electric by 2025. This is rising to 30% by 2030, and all the way to 100% electric vehicles by 2040. Now, using these estimates, for Halifax alone, there's an estimated requirement for 2,000 additional public charging stations to meet this demand. And these would be primarily level 2 and some level 3 charging stations to meet that increased demand for charging infrastructure. Beyond that, as the number of EVs increases, we're going to see the number of at-home EV charging installations increase as well, which is going to be a very large value stream that's coming. So if you look at the number of new vehicle registrations in Nova Scotia since 2010, we're seeing an average increase of about 12,500 per year over the last 8 years. So now using that 30% of new vehicle sales by 2030 number, we can expect just under 45,000 electric cars in Nova Scotia by 2030. And that's rising all the way from 400 currently. So some of the electric vehicle models available in Nova Scotia right now, you can see there on the right, there's a number of manufacturers that have made vehicles available in Nova Scotia. Some of the more notable ones would be, the Chevy Bolt, the Hyundai Kona, and of course, the Tesla. So when it comes to that federal rebate, it's only applied to cars under $45,000. So Tesla has made their Model 3 under that price point, but they've also greatly reduced the range on it. So if you want a full range Model 3, you're going to be paying that full sticker price. And if you're going to be wanting a Model S, you'll also be paying full price for that. So I made this chart here just to show you the cost of current electrical vehicles available in Nova Scotia versus their range. So you'll see that the Nissan Leaf, the Chevy Bolt, and the Hyundai Kona come out performing the best, with the Model 3 a strong competitor as well. There's a lot of other metrics to consider when you look at electric vehicles, but I felt that this helped frame where things stand right now in Nova Scotia for electric cars. So I'm going to take some time now to touch on the level 2 EV charger, which is the most realistic option for homeowners and businesses looking to implement infrastructure for electric vehicle charging. So that level 2 charger is usually around a 19.2 kilowatt output. And as I mentioned, it can achieve a full charge on an electric car in about 3 hours. So for businesses considering level 2 charging at their sites, there's a number of factors that could play into that decision. So first, I want to touch on the direct sources of revenue. So for level 2 chargers, costs of charging range across Canada. We're seeing between $1 and $4 an hour. And there's many different payment structures that can be used. So you've got subscription models, per charge fees, or energy use fees. And as this market starts to develop more, I'm sure we'll see large changes in how the costs themselves and how they're actually administered. So some of the different payment technologies available are shown here. It can be done through applications on your phone now. All the management can be done through web apps, and payment can be done through new technologies such as Apple Pay, Google Pay, and even credit cards and things like that as well. So arguably the real value in electric vehicle charging infrastructure at the moment is those indirect sources of value. So you'll see pull-through business and increased sales of products and services located near electric vehicle charging stations. And you also have the green branding opportunities that electric vehicle charging infrastructure offers. And this is nothing to scoff at. This is certainly something that is real, that consumers pay attention to. And it's a great offer for anyone looking to have that green branding around their company. So when it comes to business incentives for those electric vehicle chargers, there's a great program right now being offered by the federal government. It's called the Zero Emission Vehicle Infrastructure Program, or ZVIP for short. And what this program offers is up to 50% of the install costs on electric vehicle charging installation, up to a maximum of $5,000 per charger. So the current request for proposal is targeting multi-unit residential buildings, workplaces and light duty vehicle fleets. And these are, I mean, for all you distributors out there, if you work with any contractors involved in these types of buildings, this is a great program to broach to them to offer that funding source for these installations. A quick aside here, in Vancouver now, 100% of parking in multi-unit residential buildings needs to be made EV ready. So electric vehicle charging is coming, and it's a great time to take advantage of this lucrative program. So I want to finish with a couple slides that really help reaffirm my belief in electric vehicles as a way of the future. So the first would be the uptake in electric vehicle sales in Canada. So if we were to draw a line through the center of each of these bar graphs, you would see the makings of an exponential curve. The hype around electric vehicles has been there for a while, but we're starting to see the real sales and uptake of the technology start to happen. And it's only going to grow and get more big in the coming years. Another consideration with electric vehicles is that environmental piece. So this image here shows nitrous dioxide levels above China. And because of COVID-19 concerns, we're seeing a lot less car travel, a lot less industry happening right now. And really what this illustrates is the potential for greenhouse gas reduction through the elimination of internal combustion engines and the shift towards electric as a way to reduce emissions. I mean, this is a example for China, but I think you can see the similar effects here in Canada as well. So ultimately, electric vehicles have great environmental benefits to offer. They fit within the worldwide trend of electrification, something that's very important to us here at Catalyst. And then finally, with the combined effect of falling price and government incentives for both vehicles and charging infrastructure, wide adoption is on the horizon. And yeah, electric vehicles are coming. So thanks for your time today. I hope that you learned a little something. I'll have a look through the questions here in the sidebar and try to get to as many as I can. But if you have any questions that don't get answered, please feel free to reach out at any point, and we'd love to help you through those.